Aboriginal Australians signify one of the longest unbroken cultural populations known to man. There is continuous archaeological evidence that Aboriginal people resided on the land approximately 50,000 years ago. The history of Aboriginal people is inevitably interlocked with the Australian landscape and is traditionally and culturally articulated through the importance of kingship and the kingship's attachment to the land through dreaming. When European civilization first embarked on Australia, the European people first classified the Aboriginal people under the Flora and Fauna Act and perceived the Australian land and surrounding islands to be terra nullius. The Europeans believed the Aboriginal people to be deviant. This was because they did not naturally conform to the social standards of the Europeans. This caused the implementation of a policy that aimed at a forced decline of Aboriginal people. According to Wellington 2001, terra nullius had not only been established on the mainland but further out into the oceans of the Torres Strait that was seized by the Queensland government in 1879. Many years later, a man by the name of Eddie Mabo and a community of Torres Strait Islanders made the decision to fight the Australian government through a higher legal system to gain back their ancestral right to ownership of Mer, formerly named Murray Island, by the British. When Eddie Mabo and others took the Australian government to court, they argued for acknowledgement of native title and the inheritance and use of that land prior to colonisation. Australian government created the Native Title Act in 1993 to recognise the agreement under the Racial Discrimination Act of 1975 and to attain the aims of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 1996. Following on, the National Native Tribunal created the Native Title Amendment Act 1998, of which aided the continuation of the Aboriginal title where land had been recorded as vacant, Crown lands, state forests, national parks and public reserves. Despite the implementation of the Native Title Amendment Act 1998 and the Tribunal's practices, it has been nothing shy of criticisms. These criticisms are due to the fact that Aboriginal people need to be able to prove their ancestry. Additional requirements for attaining recognition of native title are to be weighed against the Aboriginal people being able to prove their entitlement. Historically, legislation dealt with the issue of Aboriginal land rights in Australia. This was caused by setting land aside as reserves and through heritage protection legislation. Each state created its own legislation. During the 1970s, the federal government established the Aboriginal Land Rights Commission, which then caused a accommodation of statutory land rights. The proposals of this commission had been implemented in the Aboriginal Land Rights Act of 1976, where a significant amount of Aboriginal reserve land had been passed to the traditional custodians. Barry, 2009. The matter of land rights has been a significant political issue within Australia virtually since European settlement. The requests for both rights and compensation of lost land were made by advocates and the Aboriginal Protection Society. In conclusion, although both land rights and native title have value in both history and today for not only the Aboriginal community but Australia as a whole, there are multiple differences between the two. Land rights are and always have been a direct result of decisions made by Australian state and territory governments, whereas native title had been brought into the political world by advocates and was a direct result of recognition. Under Australian common law of rights and interests, according to traditional laws and customs of Aboriginal people. Despite the fact there is still a long way to go for Aboriginal people and Australia relating to close the gap, both land rights and native title give communities the opportunity not only to take back what originally belonged to them, but to continue to move forward in the fight to close the gap.